Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an emergency podcast edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser, and you can find me on all the places, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, at Hawk Blogger. And you can find Abe Lucas, the Seahawks right tackle, here in Seattle for another 3 years after this season, because it happened, folks. If you've been watching me, you know my perspective on this. The Seahawks finally extended one of their 2022 draft class, and the first guy that they did it with, Abe Lucas, signs, according to Mike Garafolo, a 3-year, $46 million extension with a chance to earn more via incentives. Let's talk about it. I've got a lot to share on this topic, as you guys probably know. I think there's going to be some mixed emotions among Seahawks fans on this. For me, this is nothing but maybe the best move I've seen John Schneider make since he signed Julian Love to an extension before last season, and that ended up being a absolute screaming deal after Julian Love reinforced he is one of the best safeties in football and will be that way likely for the next few years and for the duration of that extension. This deal, I think it clears it. I think it has the potential to be one of the most shrewd extensions and moves that the Seahawks have made, honestly, over John Schneider's tenure. And I'll talk about the reasons why. I'll talk about all the implications. I've got some fun sound to play for you. That's why it took me a few minutes after just finishing up hopefully a pretty fun episode with Cody Alexander about defense and Mike McDonald and all sorts of great stuff. I've got some stuff to share with you now. And first thing, I just got to have a little fun. I got to have fun with my brothers because we talked about this. We had a show on Real Hawk Talk not that long ago where I said, the question was, who will they regret not extending? And when it came to my turn, you'll hear this. This is a bit of a long clip, but I think it's worth it. Let's listen. I kind of think about it in a way of, what is the price you're going to pay now versus the price you're going to pay if this player does really well? And so for me, the question's a little different because I look at Charles Cross and I think, like, they're going to pay him either way. If they paid him now, he's going to get a top left tackle deal. And if they pay him next year, he's going to get a top left tackle deal. So the delta between not extending him now and next year is really just the difference between what the top end of the market is this year versus next. And I compare that to some of the other guys, and I look at, like, Abe Lucas, right? Abe Lucas also is a tackle. His cost right now would not be top of the right tackle market. There's no way he could justify that. If he goes out and he becomes a Pro Bowl right tackle this year, he plays the whole season, and by the way, people keep forgetting, Abe Lucas was meaningfully better than Charles Cross as a rookie. Meaningfully better. Then he's been injured. Now he's back. And if he makes the same leap relatively to what Charles, I think he has the real potential to be a better player than Charles Cross. And maybe one of the better left. I think he could be very clearly a top 10 right tackle and maybe higher than that. If that's the case, you guys are smiling because Cashman's still trying to say this whole bit that happened last year where the entire Real Hawk Talk crew did not want to believe that Abe Lucas existed. So annoying.
You're like searching for signs of evidence.
So annoying. So I guess I look at it, I'm like, Abe Lucas feels like a pretty massive delta. If they don't sign him to an extension before the season and he performs, they're going to owe so much more money to keep him.
So I agree with you, Brian, but let's talk about what your comfortability parameters are with a guy with his injury history. There's some unknown, right?
Sure.
Games can he play 100%? We all acknowledge this. What type of deal would you be willing to go up to for him in length, contract value? we can pull up the right tackle market and look at contract values. But I guess I'm curious to know what your comfortability is with risk on him.
I mean, I'd have to look at the right tackle market to give you like. Let me pull it up. I'm looking at it over the cap. By the way, a little bit of Seahawks related news. Jeff, you and I were talking about this earlier. Tristan Wirfs for the Tampa Bay Bucks, currently the number 1 paid. It says right tackle, at least on over the cap. I thought he was a left tackle.
He was a right tackle. He switched to left tackle.
Got it. So he is having surgery and is going to start the season on PUP. The Seahawks play them week 5. That would be the week that he would be eligible to come off, assuming he's ready. But who knows? Like maybe he misses that game. All right. So top of the market is Tristan Wirfs at $28 million a year. Then Penei Sewell at $28 million a year. Lane Johnson, $25. Then it drops down to Juwan Taylor at $20. So I'm comfortable at like, I don't know, like definitely 15 to 17 million.
For Abe Lucas?
Yeah.
I think you just broke Evan.
With his injury history?
Yeah, that would put him at like 10th. It would put him like above Rob Havenstein.
So you'd be comfortable doing that right now. Like, what do you think his ceiling would be if he plays well? Where does he get in the market?
I think he's going to be well over like 22, 23. If he plays really well this year, I think he's going to cash in. You don't think so, Jeff?
I think you could sign him now for less. I don't know if he would take it, but for me, my number would be less.
That is an expensive gamble. Like,
they're all expensive gambles, dude. That's my point, though. If you don't sign him to whatever, like that's too much. Let's say you could get him to sign for $12 million. If after a full season of top performance, he can command 20, 23, the delta there that you're gambling by not signing him now is huge, dude.
Like you're talking like $6-7 million APY
at least, and that's per year.
I still think I'd wait and see. I think I'm willing to risk that $7 million.
I know they seem to be. I mean, I get it.
To me, you need to see a sustained performance of health.
All right, I can't wait to clip this and watch this back at the end of the year, because one of like either myself or you guys are gonna and John Schneider are either gonna look really smart or really not. And I don't know if I'm right, but that's one of the guys that really jumps out for me in terms of like Charles Cross. You're gonna pay him either way. He's already broken out. Okay, so had to put that out there. I thought it was a great conversation we had back then. And if you heard what I said, it was I would pay him 15 to 17 million per year, right? Was the number that I put out there. And what is the number that he's going to get now from the report, at least based on what Mike Garafolo said? It is a 3-year extension at 46 million. That comes in at 15.3 million per year. So I am going to take a little victory lap there because I don't get to always do it. But I think that puts him, basically at, I said 10th on that pod, but it puts Abe Lucas at, I think, like 13th or like right above Caleb McGarry, who plays for the Falcons, above Austin Jackson, above Rob Havenstein, but below guys like Terrence Steele of the Cowboys, Taylor Moton of the Panthers, Mike McGlinchey of the Broncos, Spencer Brown of the Bills, Brian O'Neill of the Vikings, Titus Howard of the Texans, Michael Onwenu of the Patriots. So he's pretty well down the list. And the other important part of this deal is that it's incentive laden, because here's the thing. This is what I wasn't sure about is could they come to terms with each other on what Abe would be, his baseline salary would be, and what his baseline earning opportunity would be, versus incentives were 100% going to be part of this deal because he's got an injury history. Everyone's like, don't sign Abe Lucas. He has to prove it. I'm like, no, that is the absolute wrong way to do this, because if you wait till he proves it, then you have to pay for that performance. And guess what? That delta that I was talking about in that clip it could be $10 million a year. That delta could be the difference between you being able to keep this young offensive line together or having to jettison one of these other guys. Let's say that Anthony Bradford actually is good this year. I know that everyone's skeptical and there's good reason to be, but let's just say that he actually is good. He's in the last year of his deal next year. You could finally have your 5 players that you love on the offensive line after a decade plus of struggling, and you'd have to say goodbye because you decided to not roll the dice with Abe Lucas because that $10 million difference isn't there. Now, assuming that Abe plays well and stays on the field, which are 2 assumptions, but assuming those 2 things, you now have opened the window to keep this group together or pick another position that you want to keep on this team that otherwise you literally just wouldn't have the opportunity to do. So, you think 10 million might not be that much money, but that could be like literally 3 free agents. That's a nose tackle, a linebacker, it's a lot of things that you can do, even a running back. That could be the difference between whether you decide Kenneth Walker is someone. If Kenneth Walker is offensive player of the year this year and you want to bring him back, you might be able to consider it now because you've got this extra flex. So that's the part for me, which just takes this over the top. And the incentives are the smart built in part because that says, okay, if he reaches a certain amount of playing time, if he is healthy, then he can earn more. So Abe gets some of the upside potential and the Seahawks protect themselves if there's downside. And so I think this is the initial value of the deal. It is always lower than the reported value. So I wouldn't be surprised if the actual value of the deal is closer to 12 million per year, somewhere around there. And that with the incentives, he might be able to earn 17, 18 million a year. I'm guessing that's probably the range of where this can be. So if he turns out to be the player you want, you will have gotten a screaming deal on one of the most important positions on your offense. And look, when the Seahawks drafted Charles Cross and Abe Lucas in 2022, Jeff Simmons and I were like, you might have just got your 2 bookends for the next decade. And they had to prove it. They had to go through a lot of things. They still have to prove it. But that remains one of the biggest potential aspects of that draft class is you just don't get 2 starting tackles in one draft class ever. And they may have done it. So we will see. I actually asked John Schneider about this when he did his press conference back in late August, just not that long ago. And I asked him this exact question. I said, what's your philosophy on paying a player before their final year or waiting until they prove that they can, essentially stay on the field, do what they're going to do, perform, and then potentially paying a much higher price? And here is what John Schneider said.
Yeah, great question. It depends. It depends on the individual and where they are and how they're performing or what their story is. Everybody has a different story. There's a lot that goes on behind closed doors that, we're proud that we can keep that in-house, and we love our guys, and we'll keep working with them. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you just have to move on to the next guy. And we don't ever stop trying to do that. But there isn't like one just standard, philosophy, other than the fact that, since we got here, like, Mr. Allen, his philosophy is, we don't do anything without, 1 year out. So we'll continue that route.
There's potential to still get any extensions done, or is this, once the preseason's kind of over, does that kind of wait until?
Oh no, it's always going on. Yeah. It's constantly going on, and it's just it's kind of in flux again, depending on the individual, depending on the representation, how's it going, the what kind of mood Joey Lane's in, that sort of thing.
So that was John Schneider a few weeks ago when I asked him about that. And you heard me ask him, like, so are we past the point of these extensions happening now that preseason's kind of over? And he's like, nope, we're still working. And based on my understanding, I think they have been offering, trying to get extensions done with other players from that 2022 class and couldn't come to an agreement. Now, that doesn't mean there could be other extensions that get agreed to before, like, it's just Thursday. There's still more time. I wouldn't be shocked. I still thought Kobe Bryant was the guy that made the most sense to me because I think his price is not going to be too high and he has the potential to be a very good player. And so it could be another situation like Julian Love, like Abe Lucas, where you lock in a starting player at a position while they're still young and there's still value to be had by signing them. So, I don't know. That's my assumption. I don't know if Kobe Bryant is just like, man, maybe they just couldn't agree on a number or maybe whatever. But I thought he was the most likely. The Charles Cross thing, I certainly thought that he was a guy that they would potentially do, but they have a 5th-year option. So Charles Cross is going to be on the team this year and next year. And they might be just comfortable waiting to see how he performs over the next 2 years. Not sure I love that, but I feel more confident in what Abe Lucas can be when he's on the field than even Charles Cross. And some people may disagree with that. And honestly, like, everybody's seen me beat like this to a pulp, like just hammer on this all off season. And every time I tweet about signing it, I literally tweeted about it this morning. I'll read you some of the other tweet reactions in a second, but all the responses I'll read you. Let me just read you some of the responses to my tweet this morning. And they're very typical. It's what we always get when I say something about Abe Lucas. So Nick Wagoner, who covers the 49ers, was talking about Colton McKivitz. And he says, if Colton McKivitz stays healthy and plays at or above level he did last year, he's likely to get a $17 to $20 million a deal this offseason per year, especially if it hits the open market. The going rate for dependable right tackles demands it. I quote tweeted that, and I said, Abe Lucas is going to be better than Colton McKivitz by a wide margin. His price will be higher. And Evan tells me to go back to bed because I tweeted that at 2:30 in the morning. And then the next response is, if he plays a whole season, I agree. If he misses a game or here or there, it can be in the same range. If he misses a chunk, it will be lower. Doesn't matter how good you are. You're available. It's about being available. Just because, and this another tweet says, just because we'll have the money for it doesn't mean we should happen long term. Guys don't get healthier the longer they're in the NFL, even if they play well. Another says, hard to see them paying both tackles. Doesn't seem like their thing at all. And then someone else, I'd want this done mid-season in an economy where Dan Moore gets $20 million. We can't let Lucas test the free agent market. So like, I'm telling you, like, that's been the response consistently is, oh no, you got to see him play. You got to see him stay healthy. What I will say that I have had the benefit of, and certainly the guys at the VMAC have had the benefit of, that not all fans have, is I've been there every day of OTAs, mini camp, training camp, all through the preseason. Abe didn't miss a snap. I also, I've had a chance to talk with Abe a couple times. I'm going to play some sound from the interview I did with him before training camp started here in a second. But this guy, there's nobody that is working on their body more than Abe Lucas constantly. Even when the team got the weekend off this past weekend, where a lot of people are traveling back to Texas or wherever, they're all doing their things, like just rejuvenating before the season started. Abe posted like day off. Let's get to work. And he's in the gym and he's working. Like, he started Iron Purgatory Fitness. Like, his passion eventually is to maybe open up his own gym with a friend of his. Like, this guy has demonstrated every single thing you would want to see from him this offseason. And like, all their medical information. If you don't think the Seahawks have done their medical due diligence on this, like, come on. Now, is it risk-free? 100% no. And honestly, if he had never been injured before and they signed him to a big deal, there'd still be an injury, like an injury risk. Like, that's just the reality of this sport. It is a really dangerous sport to play, and injuries happen all the time. But this is a situation where I think they made the right bet on the right guy. And I couldn't be more happy for Abe. And part of the reason I couldn't be more happy for him is listen to this clip of, when I interviewed him this past before training camp. And I asked him, like, look, like, you went to high school in this state, you went to college in this state at Wazoo, you got drafted by the Seahawks, you're now going to be entering into your final year with the team. Is there any part of you that, like, wishes you got to kind of explore a different part of the country? Or, how has it been actually spending all this time in one state? And here is what Abe said.
That's great. I mean, I never had any desire to go anywhere else. When you get drafted, it's just kind of like, where am I going to end up? But, when I got picked by Seattle, like, I did my draft party in Pullman. So after I got picked and I got off the phone and everything, I just remember being like, oh, I guess I could just drive home. And so I drove home and I dropped all my stuff off at my parents' house, stayed there for a bit. And then it was like, I'm here, I'm back home. And I mean, it's everything. It is everything I hoped it would be and more. I mean, I've said this before, but I hope to play my entire career here. I think that would be fantastic. Especially for, the team that I grew up watching and all, I guess, my childhood heroes that I've been able to meet throughout this process and everything. Like, I got to talk to Lofa Tatupu the other day for a good long while. And, I have his jersey hanging up in my closet from when I was a kid. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know where else I would be. I wouldn't really want to be anywhere else. I just want to keep it here, keep it hometown. And, I love this organization. I love the fans. I used to be one. And now I'm playing for them. It doesn't get any better than that.
I mean, come on. Like, if you're not all in on Abe Lucas, there's something wrong with you. This guy is going to embody everything that this team is trying to be. Big, strong, tough, reliable, gets off the bus, and you see Abe Lucas and you're in for a day. Like, I think this is just unbelievably good news. And, that should come as no surprise to anyone that's been following me on this topic for a long time. Now, I told you I'd read some tweets. Let's go ahead and do that. But, I also should take a moment to mention sponsor of the show. So if you have not already checked out the Sleeper app, make sure you do. It is a great way to connect with other people who love sports, and you get real-time updates. I'm sure in the Sleeper app, you got to see that Abe Lucas signed this extension. You get visualizations on all stats. You can run your fantasy football stuff there. A lot of great information there. You also get to engage in real-time chat with other people, individual plays, performance around the NFL. It's the #1 sports app out there especially for fantasy football. And for daily fantasy sports. So use promo code Hawks and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. So let's check out some of these tweets. All right. So first one I got is from Evan Hill, who gave you that face, that expression when I said 15 million back in the Real Hawk Talk. He was like, what? So his quote tweet from Mike Garafolo was, yes, all caps with about 20 exclamation marks. And he says, so excited about this. One of the best right tackles in football when healthy. This will make him around the 13th highest paid right tackle in football. Considering the injuries history, this is a great value for both sides. Gotcha, Evan. I gotcha, man. Like, that's quite a different tune than when I told you that same number not so long ago. Other reactions from the Real Hawk Talk crew. So by the way, Jeff Simmons, always the fastest trigger. He's the one that put it in our group chat first. Evan continues in our group chat, says, so curious to see the guarantees, but at the end of the day, this is an absurd value. Braden says, John Schneider from the top ropes. Dana says, seems to be a good deal and smart to get it done before he has a monster year and gets more expensive. Josh Cashman says, hashtag still not real. Derek says, good deal. Jeff says that Brian runs the franchise. I do not run the franchise, but I'm glad, like, part of the reason I'm so excited, part of the reason I decided to do this as my full-time gig is I was so excited about John's hiring of Mike McDonald and the direction they were taking the team. And pretty much almost everything they've done since then, I've been super on board with. And it's not, if you've been with me and Real Hawk Talk and hawkblogger.com for years, you know I have not always been on board with everything the team does. And I won't be afraid to say when I'm not on board with what the team does in the future. In fact, this is a good example where I've been really like hounding them about make this deal. Like, it is silly to not make this deal. This would be a mistake to not sign Abe Lucas. But then they do it. So we're aligned. Like, what can I say? They're doing the things that I like. Nathan Ernst checks in with a seems like a great deal. So lots of good reactions there. And I'm going to see if, based off anything on the beats, anyone else comes up with anything else to say. Yeah. I think that's really the most of it, guys. I mean, just a really, truly amazing, thoughtful moment for the Seahawks and John Schneider. And now they got to pay it off. And it's going to be really, like, the stage is set for this weekend where Nick Bosa goes up against Abe Lucas, and we see it's as tough as it gets. Like, he is as good as it gets, and we'll see whether it looks like money well spent pretty quickly. So I think we've got some super chats. Let's get to those. Saucy Sasquatch has gifted 20 Hawk Blogger memberships. That is so nice to see. We haven't seen as many gifted memberships lately, but this is so nice when people are generous this way. Brings more people into the community. If you want to get one of these free memberships, all you got to do, turn gifting on your YouTube account. If you don't know how to do that, Google it, figure out how to turn on gifting, and then watch the show, comment on the show, join in chat, like, subscribe, all those things. That's how Google decides who gets one of these free memberships. If you get one of the free memberships, consider paying it forward. We're a gifting community. We're a charitable community. And so it's always great to do that, or upgrade to club level or higher as a member. And you get access to the Discord channel, hang out, talk with me and a bunch of other folks all throughout the day. So thanks to Saucy for those gifts. Carson Youngren says, diehard Cougs fan makes it even better. Cheers to a new season. Thanks for all you do. Well, man, thank you. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for watching. CJK04 says, member for 13 months. Oh, sorry. He is a member for 13 months. I got a text message that distracted me. The juice was worth the squeeze. Glad we signed Abe and reward in-house players. I think, amen. Great call. Makes a ton of sense. Super Puff King says, is this a lesson to Jerry Jones on how to treat your players and not get screwed by waiting? Let's go. Go Hawks. Big win this weekend. 38-10 Hawks. Wow, that's even bigger than I predicted. And I've had like nightmares about how big my prediction of a win was. So, yeah, look, this is a big moment, a smart moment. It is a gamble. I'm not going to say that it's not. It is a gamble. I think it's a wise gamble. And kudos to Abe Lucas for I think part of the reason this deal happens is because what I just played for you, he wants to be here. He loves being a Seahawk. And Abe is not the most effusive guy. Like, he's not going to be a guy that waxes poetic about a lot of things. But there's a big heart in there, and there is a real pro. Like, he's a professional. And I'm glad I've gotten to know him a little bit better. And I'm sure as heck looking forward to being able to, I'm sure they'll do a press conference with him today. And he probably won't say much, but I'll get a chance to see him in the locker room and say congrats, because he's earned it. He's earned it. So, all right, folks, that will do it for this emergency pod edition. Abe Lucas is a Seahawk, not just for this year, but for 3 years after, averaging about $15 million per year. We'll find out the full details over the next few days, I'm sure. Fantastic move. Really good news. All right. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.